And welcome to the Liam Scheff Show. I'm off giving a talk. Let's listen to this interview with Sean Maguire from earlier this week. It's a great interview. Don't go anywhere. But seriously, I'm giving a talk. I'm giving a talk on the oil alarm, how we have to relocalize, grow food, how the international trucking Monsanto syndicate is not going to be there for us in our wee dotage. We have to take good care of ourselves. So I'm not actually here, but I'm here. I'm not actually here, but I'm here. I did an interview earlier this week with Sean Maguire on People's Internet Radio, and he sounds a little like this. He's a very good fellow. And it's a good interview. It's a lively interview. We'll talk about food. We'll talk about David Bowie. We'll talk about sexy planets. We'll talk about myths and storytelling. Stay tuned. You're listening to UCY TV and Truth Frequency Radio and People's Internet Radio. Pause. Please support internet. Please support independent journalism by buying official stories. It's there on Amazon.com. Here we go.
But moving on to the next part of the show, I want to thank Chris Spivey for that fantastic hour just now, and obviously Owen and Phil before that. But we're moving on to the next part of the show, and we have the wonderful heavy typer, Liam Scheff. How are you doing, Liam?
Oh, I thought I was muted.
You weren't.
Oh, I quit. I'm leaving.
Welcome back to Out of the Bag, Liam. It's always a massive pleasure.
Hello, Sean. I talked to your producer. You guys want to get me doing a show? I'll be doing it eventually. I'll be doing it eventually.
Yes.
I planted a garden today. I dug an herb spiral.
Oh, right. Yeah. Herb spirals are fantastic. For all your herb necessities. Right outside your window.
Right outside your garden window.
Yeah.
There's a little circle of bricks that we got for 3 for $1, which is, cheap because they're made by slaves in other countries. They're fired in kilns that other people get hurt in, and then they ship them to us on giant boats that use oil. Diesel fuel, actually, very heavy diesel fuel that pollutes as much as possible. So we got those. They're not very pretty, but because they were inexpensive without any outlying costs that we were aware of, we put them in the garden, and I dug them down, and they slowly rise. Put in a layer of sand, and then a layer of dirt.
Yep.
And you get some herbs.
Yeah, we whack loads of seaweed in ours. It's fantastic. And don't plant rocket. It'll rocket and take over everything.
What will?
Rocket.
What's that?
Oh, it's a beautiful leaf. It's a beautiful salad leaf. Very peppery, very tasty. My favourite. So I decided to plant loads, and now it's all over the place. I can't get rid of it. No, it's brilliant. I can't keep up with it. We pick it every single day and have it with pretty much every meal, even with the kids' cereal. No, I'm joking. So you're into this permaculture stuff and doing the getting your hands dirty, digging your hands in the dirt.
Yeah, I really am, and I really do. I had a great garden going in Boston. I'll post some. It was hard for me to post pictures of those because they were with my dearly departed partner who had to go elsewhere to do more important things because this world's a wreck. But
okay.
It was hard to post those pictures for a long time. But I finally showed them to some friends, and I'm starting to feel better about it. I had a garden back in Boston, of all places, that just produced and produced. We had great things from it. From April, we could get. I would go in, and it's probably a climate as cold as yours, or colder than winter.
Mm-hmm.
I would go in the mud, praying for some global warming, and I would dig out as much as I could and turn it around, and then put in some radish seeds, and take the compost from the compost bin that we had started. We'd get radish greens, which you can eat as a salad green, which are really very fresh.
They're great
in May, in the beginning of May. And nobody, in Boston, that's unheard of. It's just unheard of. Then by, June, we had just everything coming in, everything green coming in. And by July, we had big, glorious beets. Now, Sean, if I had known better, I would have been peeing in the garden. But
yes.
Now, why would I have been doing that?
Because it's good. All the nutrients that your whiz puts into your compost heap is wonderful. The permaculture camp I went on, Genie Mac, must be about 30 years ago. The gents' urinals was funneled right the way through to compost heaps.
What did you say?
I said the gents' urinals, the toilets.
Oh, I thought you said the genty rhinos.
Yeah, the gentle rhinos. That's what I said.
No, the genty.
Oh, the genty rhinos.
Sorry, being from the North country as you are, I sometimes lose track. Yes, the gents urinals.
Yes.
Or as we say in Amoricon, we pee in the garden.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, pee in the garden. But this was for visitors to a centre for modern new technologies or alternative technologies in Wales. And it's an incredible place, but all these busloads of kids and stuff used to go there to do projects and things years and years and years ago. And
Let me ask you a question.
Go on.
How did they get the whales to pee in the urinal?
How did they get the what?
The whales to pee in the urinal.
The children peed in
the
the
whales.
urinal.
You said there were whales.
Did I? Did I really? Is your
No.
hearing so badly
I'm sorry,
today?
you said in Wales. How dare you not go along with my bad?
Well,
joke?
I'm
Dare
sorry.
you?
I'm sorry. You lost me then. I was thinking, what the fuck?
How did you get the whales to pee in the urinals?
We lifted them up with about 200, 300 people, lifting them from the sea, and we put them
Yes.
on roller skates
On roller skates.
and took them to this McClunk place in
I
Wales.
heard there was a terrible accident and someone was just pulled into your urethra.
Exactly, that's what happened. And from then on, we realised that urine is very good on compost.
So a Swedish group, it was either the Swedes or the Norwegians, but
Okay.
you'd have to ask John Lennon about that. But I think it was the Swedes. They did an experiment where they took fresh urine and they poured it in a diluted manner so that it wouldn't be overly hot, overly nitrogenous.
Okay.
And they poured it all over the beets. Well, they had three. They had a bed of normal, what we call normal soil, which is just worm poop and other kinds of poop. And then they had one with ash, which is full of potassium, phosphorus, something.
Yes.
And then they had one with urine, and then they had one with urine and ash, which is actually 4. Well, guess which ones did the best?
Urine and ash.
Urine and ash.
Yeah.
Urine. Right, and they had a little hole that they threw it, and it's a urine ash hole, and they would just throw it right through.
That's excellent. Excellent. And we're European over here. And
Very sorry about that.
it was a bad joke, and I'm going to give you another one. We're European over here, and European in our garden.
Europeans have gardens.
They do.
And they should pee in and around them.
Can I tell you what we do as a family, Liam?
Yeah, I don't know. This is your show.
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Genuinely, okay, every year, at planting time, at the beginning of planting time in the early spring, we choose our favourite crops. Like I like rocket, too much of it though. My daughter likes peas and little pea snaps and that type of thing. Mange too, My son likes the salad, the radishes, that type of stuff. And my wife is spuds and carrots. That's the stuff. So we plant.
I like your wife. I could eat dinner with her.
Yeah, absolutely. I do often. So anyway, what we do is we plant the seeds, but prior to planting them, we have a little ceremony together out in our garden, right, where we put the seeds under our tongues for a while. And we all have our little plot where we're plotting for the future, okay? And we then plant the seeds after we take them out of our mouths that have covered in saliva, so they have all our DNA on them. We make the holes in the ground, a little seedling is popped into it, and then we spit in it to add it to the soil. So the soil has our DNA, the seed has our DNA. Then we have a time when we're obviously, watering and all the rest of it, but each of us peas on our plot. We also have a range, which has lots and lots of turf being burnt, and we end up adding ash to it as well. Isn't that lovely?
What kind of space do you have?
There's about an acre here.
An acre is very good.
It is, and we have a polytunnel here, and as a rebel, we actually grow figs and nectarines and peaches that they say you can't grow them in Ireland unless it's hotbox and stuff. But
polytunnel for people in other countries is a polyamorous tunnel where Sean goes to.
You bring it back to sex again?
Not a what? It's a polyurethane. It's a plastic hothouse, right?
Yes.
It's amazing that I deciphered that.
Yeah.
Only knowing 3 or 4 words of English myself to be able to draw that out, a polytunnel. That's pretty impressive.
But look, we got to grow things underneath now, because I don't know about America, but which I think it is, because I've seen all the films and the videos, but we're being sprayed to hell out here. It's nice to have something undercover, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it just comes through, you know that. I mean, it's the air. It's the air. But okay. But I think that with the polychlorinated vinyl, whatever you're using, what polyurethane tunnel is also doing is extending your growing season a little bit for a few weeks to a month on either side, possibly.
Yeah. There's some great comments in the chat room. We're talking about peeing on the garden and stuff. And P.O. says, golden flowers.
Yeah. Wasn't that a Paul McCartney song on the last Beatles album, I think? Golden flowers, golden flowers. No.
No, maybe not. Maybe not.
Golden flowers fill your eyes. Golden showers fill your eyes.
That's
golden slumbers fill your eyes.
Golden showers, I think. Blind you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I heard he was into that.
I have no idea. Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
You never know with Yoko.
Sir Paul, he's a great old gal.
Okay. I wonder if this conversation has actually been listened to, and they're sitting there going, what the heck is going on? They're going off at tangents in their minds, and none of us understand the in-jokes.
Oh, sorry. I'll slow it down.
Okay, sorry. For us unintelligent people.
The Beatles' 1970 album, right. Abbey Road, features a song called Golden Slumbers. Actually, it was mostly a Paul McCartney production, which John Lennon shrugged off later as one of Paul's bits.
I think he's always been shrugging off Paul's bits.
Oh my God. That was Brian Epstein's bits. They took a vacation.
Whoops. Yeah.
Famous vacation. He shrugged off his bits. He said,
so listen, you've sent me a photo of you going back to permaculture. And,
yeah, sorry.
And your, it's okay. And your herb wheel. And yes, it is a very Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure Garden. It definitely is.
Okay, so when I'm 5'9", I'm not 6'1" or 2 like Keanu Reeves, but I look a little like Keanu Reeves. I have that sort of long face, and I look in that picture like I look like I'm saying, "Hey, look at the garden.
What's this, man?
Yo, man, look at this garden.
It rocks.
It totally rocks.
There's rocks, in fact."
It's amazing what's happened to the dialect of Americans. I don't know what to do when I'm out in public speaking to people. I essentially grew up in a household that listened to just a lot of British stuff. Right. A lot of Alistair Cook's America. Okay. I don't know why. Okay. But we listened to that. And there was a point when there NPR over here, which is National Proletariat Radio, it just pretends to be. I call it neural prosthetic radio. It's actually called National Public Radio, but I call it neural prosthetic because it gives you the illusion that you're thinking. It's owned by Archer Daniels Midland. It really is. It's funded by Archer Daniels Midland and Monsanto. So you meet all of these so-called Democrats, and these liberals, and they listen to National Public Radio, and they go, "Well, I heard on NPR. You heard on Bill Gates' ham radio channel that."
Brilliant.
Oh, I heard the bird flu's coming to get us. Oh.
Yeah. I hear we're overpopulated, Liam.
That'll be taken care of.
Bullshit.
No, not really.
Yeah.
Listen. All right, listen, Maguire. As long as you not be a Campbell, I'll talk with you.
Okay, go for it.
The Campbells who turned against all the other Macs in the ancient fight. Overpopulation.
Yeah.
If you hold your hand out in front of you, your arm out in front of you, or whatever you're using to point at people, and you hold it relatively flat and you just drag it across the horizon, you imagine that's a line. That's a line on a graph, and it's just flat, and maybe is increasing 0.5% as you go all the way across. That's the amount of increase in the human population from, as far as anybody can tell, till just about yesterday. Just about yesterday started in about 1850. Mm-hmm. In 1800 or so, we started to use coal to move things around. We started to use food in large groups around. We started to use coal to move, to drill for metals. We changed the way that we lived, and we had people working in factories. We had food being brought in from very far distances and stored in refrigerated boxes. That changed. The population went up more than it really ever had before. I mean, it added, from having reached a billion.
If you believe history, of course.
Huh?
If you believe history.
Yes, if you believe history. For the rest of you, we'll have a slideshow on the Lido deck of my favorite vacations from the 7th grade. By the way, you asked me what grade school was.
I was only being a bit facetious. Do you know? I mean, like we grade these children like we do spuds and cauliflowers.
Yeah, with grade A, grade B, grade C, and then there's the military grades D and E, D and F.
I thought they would
kick them.
That's the police, surely.
The police in the military. There's some there are bright people in the. Anyway, I'm going to say this in case anybody ever listens to this and they're police officers. There's some really nice people in the police force.
There is. They just don't realize it's a corrupt bunch of wankers they work for.
Yeah, well, and sometimes they do, and then they quit. All of my friends who ever worked as cops quit.
Good.
Yeah, they all quit.
I remember actually being arrested at a poll tax demonstration in England, and the guy, because they were arresting so many people, right? I was handcuffed to this one guy for 7 hours, bless him. And the next time I saw him was at Glastonbury Festival. He had dreads and a big spliff hanging out of his mouth.
Well, why were you pole dancing? What was that about?
It was the poll tax.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't pole dance. In fact, it was quite an hilarious arrest. I was running around the gardens behind Cheltenham Town Hall as Margaret Thatcher was giving speeches in there and stuff, and the Tories were in there. And I genuinely, loudly, as they were running and trying to catch me, because they couldn't catch me, I was actually singing the Benny Hill tune. Whilst they were slipping over, because I knew the place like the back of my hand that grew up there. These were, drafted in police. So I was hiding behind trees and jumping over walls and coming out of gates, and I was going. Anyway, just thought I'd paint that picture
that's
for you.
Beautiful. So, I mean, what a wonderful thing to have a police force that won't kill you dead with their 357 Magnum.
Exactly, they didn't even have a taser on them, bless them.
Oh, I know. I remember I was dating a Scandinavian girl a long time ago, and she was telling me about the police. They had she said, they had just gotten bullets made of rubber. Before that, they just had to yell at you.
Yeah, don't be talking to us about rubber bullets, mate. Anyway.
Well, they hurt.
Yeah, they do. Break legs and everything. Anyway.
Yeah, they can kill you. All right, so that flat line going across the horizon. Then we add oil to the mixture. And somebody said, actually a guy called Norman Borlaug said, why don't we use all of this oil that we have to increase the rate of food production no matter what the cost to the environment?
Yay.
Right. So, organic can produce a lot of food. It has to be grown locally.
Yeah.
It can't be shipped 2,500 miles just to be rounded down to one decimal point of what it used to be so that can be poured into your Cheetos. It actually has to be eaten as food. I know you understood what I meant.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If that is done, which it won't be, it's possible to support a much larger population than the 1.5 billion that we started with in 1900. But I consider it highly likely, okay. And I can explain my reasons. Again, there'll be a slideshow on the Lido deck right after the show about why the population will probably grind itself back down to about 1.5 billion by about 2090.
So from the 7 billion down to 1.5, yeah?
Something like that.
That's a lot of people going by the wayside.
It's a lot of people who are already very, very old, not living until they're 95 on 25 drugs, but, leaving happily at 85.
I mean, are you planning sort of Blade Runner Minority Report in the future?
No, I'm not. I don't have any plans. I'm not David Bowie in that wonderful China Girl song. I don't have plans for everyone. All I'm doing is looking at the economic, geographical, geological, and let me say aquaphonic to invent a word, the distribution of water. The distribution of water on the planet. What I see in my country, and I'll speak for my country alone, is that our Ogallala aquifer, say that 18 times.
No.
Is not quite incapacitated, but it's on its way out. The Colorado River is a thing of yesteryear. Lake Mead is now declined to a point where probably in the next 10 minutes it will stop. The Hoover Dam will stop producing electricity for the western states. Mm.
But this is all man-made shite, isn't it?
Well, it's the man-made shite that the billions live on. I mean, Los Angeles, Albuquerque, Phoenix, Tempe, Arizona, anywhere in New Mexico, anywhere in Utah, Salt Lake City. I already said Las Vegas, even San Francisco to a degree, everything south of San Francisco in California.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the way to parts of Oklahoma and through Utah, Texas. It just never really ends. There's the amount of water that's drained from this Colorado basin, which is now a trickle. It doesn't reach the ocean. It's the Rio Grande is a trickle. All the rivers, the Indians have dammed their rivers. I think the Narmada Project, which was protested beautifully but vainly by Arundhati Roy, who could break your heart with a look, did everything she could to bring attention to it, brought attention to me. I interviewed some people about the Narmada Project, but no, all you have to do is say more jobs.
Yeah.
More jobs.
Yeah, more jobs. That works. More jobs, nuclear power station.
Bring out your dead.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. Look, I've got a completely different view to most people, I think, and based on, I don't know, whether it's my weird experiences I've had or just my own thought processes, but I really do think that we were highly, highly, highly populated eons ago on this planet. And that to keep on a spiritual level, I think the people in control, the masters of Satanist cult spelling, okay, I think they need to keep us under a certain amount, I think, and that's why we have wars and man-made shite, is that they tried to keep us under 9 billion for ages and ages and ages, when if we go over that, we've got a mass consciousness that will overthrow their powers. That's my Marvel comic take on it.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate hearing that out loud in one cohesive thought. I think that we're a species of animal,
of idiots,
that has a reflective or consciousness, in that it sees that it thinks. And I think because we see that we think, we somehow think we're not subject to the rules of other animals. No, but I think we are subject to the rules of other animals.
We are indeed. We are. Of course we are. We're here, sure. We're in the same environment.
Listen, I think that the spiritual beyond is just that. It's unknowable. I'm a Taoist, Buddhist, Hindu sympathizer. But
sympathizer. I think that's what you should say about all religions.
Yeah, I'm a sympathizer. I'm not very sympathetic with Christianity, although I do have a few Christian friends who I like.
It'd be nice if they acted a bit Christian, wouldn't it?
What?
It'd be nice if they acted like Christians.
Oh, don't get me started. Hi, we have to exclude you for not thinking the crazy things we think. We're loving.
Yeah. But we'll have to kill you first and cull you as well.
Well, thank goodness they sort of lessened that. My problem with Christianity is that it's such a warmed over version of Jewish superhero stories that I just don't know. I don't know what they're bringing their stories from. The whole idea of the loving God is hard to find in those books. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of their I don't know, part of the work that they do, their abacus or whatever, they just go, well, it's hard to find, so it must be worthwhile. But I think it's hard to find. There's better stuff to look at. Whatever. If you're a good Christian, you're a good Christian and you love people. But I guarantee if you're a good Christian, you'd be a good person whether you were a good Hindu or wherever you were born.
Exactly. There's good and bad everywhere. I've been saying to people, two things rise to the surface. One of them is cream. The cream rises. But the other thing is the scum. And we've allowed the scum to rise and they own and control and all the rest of it. So, hey, we're just putting up with the fact that we let them do it.
Well, I make this argument, and I'm writing my book. You enjoyed and you were very, very kind in your praise of my Official Stories book. Official Stories 2 will come next April. Mm-hmm. I'm giving myself proper leeway to do all the writing, all the correcting, all the other stuff, all the reviews. So it will be April. It won't be May. Mm-hmm. April comes, she will. April is the cruelest month.
Yeah.
Breeding lilacs out of the dead land.
Okay.
Mixing some tried tubers with spring rain. April will be a good month. And the book is about a thesis that has been brewing in my soul since I think I was almost aware of everything. It's the basic philosopher's question. Sorry, I'll put it to you. What's the basic philosopher's question?
I wouldn't have a clue.
Oh, come on.
No, go on.
You're a philosopher.
I'm not a philosopher.
All poets are philosophers.
Are they?
Yeah, all songwriters are philosophers.
Don't put me on the spot here. I was just looking for a track to play while we were having a break. Come on.
The basic philosopher's question is why? Why?
But why is it?
What and why? What are we?
But why is that the question?
Why do we do what we do?
Why is that the question?
It's the root. I mean, because if you take any other question down, like why did Susie go out with Marky and not me, or why did Mrs. Bush's blouses look so good to me in the 4th grade? I did have anyway, that's another story.
Oh my God, not from the Bush family, surely.
No, she was, before that name was destroyed, there was actually a lovely, lovely teacher.
Yeah, I've got a friend who doesn't come out. His name's Adolf.
Yeah, I'm thinking of writing one of those Redux comic books where you take unlikely figures from the past, like Tesla and Edison, and you put them in a buddy movie. So I've got Henry and Ford, and Adolf together again.
Smoking cannabis and making cars. Brilliant.
Hating Jews, making cars.
Did he hate them? I don't know. Was his mother a Jew? All these rumours, I don't know. I think it's very important to maybe look at history and not what just the mainstream media gives us, eh?
Are we on a break?
No, should we go on a break?
No.
Okay. Would you like to hear a tune? Okay, it's on.
Okay.
We've hit the half hour, Liam, so why not?
All right, put on a song.
When
I get back, I want to tell you about my Philosopher's Stone.
I will. We will want to hear about your Philosopher's Stone. Please remind me.
I'm muting myself. I've had enough of this.
Go on then, mute it. And I will play 5 years.
We'll be back with the second part of that interview with Sean Maguire of People's Internet Radio. We'll return with more talk about David Bowie. We'll talk about the storytelling species that we are. Maybe we'll talk a little more about food, but I doubt it. That Benny Hill story was good stuff. Just be sorry, but being mindful enough to run around while they're chasing you. Let's see. So as we speak, I'm either back or I've just given a talk on the oil alarm. The oil alarm, the oil alarm, the oil alarm, the oil alarm, the oil alarm. Say it 100 times backwards. The oil alarm is the thing that we're living in. It's the place where food is nowhere to be found. Stores are not places where food grows. They're big, empty husks, concrete husks. If trucks were to stop for one day in this country, there would be mass panic in the streets. If it stopped for 2 days, everything would be ripped off the shelves, and in 3 days it would look like Albania during wartime. This country is really only a few centimeters away from Albania, not to knock the Albanians, and in fact we're in a lot worse shape because we don't raise goats and we don't have local agriculture. I want you to go to your local Whole Foods and tell me where the food is. I know it's inside on the shelves, but I want you to tell me where the food comes from. The food comes in on trucks. Oh, I know they support 1 or 2 farmers within a 100-mile radius, but everything else comes from California, Washington. Some things come from Georgia, not much. And everything else comes from Monsanto land, somewhere there in the dense, fat-housed middle of the country where everybody's working for Monsanto, so you can't say anything about it. People driving all day long to go from place to place. Well, that could be anywhere. We're all driving all day long to get from place to place. And it's going to be a big mess. It's going to hit a wall. It's going to be ugly. What can you do to get out from under it? I don't know, Liam. What can we do to get out from under it? You're scaring us. Stop feeding us negativity. You can grow food, you lazy bastards. You can grow food. It's not that hard. You can grow food. You get out into your yard. Oh, you have a yard. You've barely seen it for the last few years because you've been on the internet, but you actually have a yard. There's some patchy grass in there. You can put 4 pieces of wood together. You can even hold them up with rebar. You don't even have to drill. Then you put down some weed cloth or some paper bags, anything really, to block the plants below from growing in. You put soil down. You dig it down a little bit so it's embedded. Put a little sandy soil on the bottom, a couple of rocks. Then you put some good soil, composty soil in the middle. You bring that up nearly to the top. Then you put a good layer of mulch. Why? To hold in the water. And then you plant your seedlings under the mulch. You can do it. We're coming back with Sean Maguire hosting me on his show.
And welcome back to Out of the Bag. This is Sean Maguire live on People's Internet Radio. That's www.people'sinternetradio.com, where we are seeking solutions. And I am joined by Liam Scheff once again. How are you, Liam? Did you enjoy a bit of Bowie?
I'm in heaven. You know that he's one of my personal deities, right?
Well, why would I play such a track for someone like yourself, Liam?
I remember when I was in the 9th grade, and which is what is that for you? That's 14 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. What is that for you? Secondary.
Yeah, secondary school.
Right. So, and I guess I'd gone through the Beatles, and I guess a little of the Stones, and we had the American stuff. We had to listen to Billy Joel and that sort of thing. And then we had Duran Duran and Culture Club the year before, and then Michael Jackson. And then U2. And I think we only got U2 with Unforgettable Fire, which was pretty late.
Wow, that was late, yeah.
Pretty late for their evolution. But I liked it. I think Brian Eno produced that. It was it's Wall of Sound stuff,
Yeah. He did his trick with the Ramones as well, which was quite weird.
Yeah, very, very poetical album, sort of nonsensical poetical. A lot of it sounded like Robert Frost poems, and I was in New England. It's time to go in the sleet and driving snow across the fields in the morning, all that stuff. That's very New England, so it just fit. But then I don't know how, but Bowie came along, and we had known, I'd known Bowie from China Girl and Let's Dance, which is, I don't know, it's just pop.
Yeah, from the Serious Moonlight tour and all that stuff. Yeah,
sure. But then you heard, the first song is a Space Oddity, and you listen, and you're like, this is a cool song. I like this. This takes me somewhere. And then I don't know. I know you remember this, but it used to be Daring. We used to be Daring, and we would go buy an album. And like we knew we liked one song, but we'd get together the $4 or $5. It was hard to get. $7. Buy an album, a whole album.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's really important.
Yeah, artists would take you somewhere. They knew that you had to be with them for 45 to 55 minutes.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, they were classic albums. I mean, my favorite David Bowie album's got to be Hunky Dory, though, I think.
Well, that's a great album.
It is.
Is that with, I think all the young dudes and, Boy from Free Cloud and that stuff?
Yeah. I mean,
Song for Bob Dylan,
yeah, and the Beauty Brothers and all that type of stuff on it. It's just a fantastic album, seminal album. I think it's the album that actually convinced my son he wanted to be a singer-songwriter.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it has changes on it too. I mean, so Bowie's a genius. Bowie's a musical genius. I say that without reservation. He can play several instruments. He can sing anything. He can sing Wild as the Wind, and he can sing Space Oddity, and he can sing anything. He's got a great range. I mean, an enviable range. And the only problem with him, of course, is that he was just so skinny. That was
was that it? Was it the thin white Duke?
Yeah, the anorexic cocaine white Duke. But who cares? He was a genius.
Yeah. So still is his new stuff is fantastic too.
He's still a genius.
Yeah.
He's still a genius. And if you watch especially the video he did with the Tilda Swinton thing, and he has the female model dressing up as him when he was in his 20s, he's a genius. And I don't know that anybody calls him that, but he's a genius.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Yeah. And he's better than everybody just about in his generation. He could make fun of them on a lark, and
well, he raised his profile in Ireland when he told the Queen to shove the knighthood up her arse.
He refused. He refused what was it? An MBE?
Yeah.
Member of the British whatever.
Well, he didn't want to be a sir, did he? Really?
No. Why would anybody take that? Everybody's now a sir. We'll have Sir Liam Neeson in a week because because he made Taken 3 and it earned enough at the box office. Every actor who's got a drop of UK blood in them, sometimes gets a knighthood.
Yeah,
but I think it detracts.
And that, yeah, absolutely. And then any Irish or slightly Irish or Northern Irish, they're obviously British, so give them a royal thing as well. It's quite weird.
Yes, they're British.
Yeah.
They're from the disunited.
That's right. Yeah, George Best was English, of course, and Barry McGuigan was English, and all those people were English. Yeah.
So I finally bought, and it was very daring. Nobody knows how daring this was, but it was very daring to go buy The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, because you actually had to buy it. You didn't order it. You actually had to pick the thing up and carry something with a boy girl, and it was this boy girl, in tight blue day glow outfit with like shining hair, and you'd seen pictures of Bowie, and immediately you're associated with what you're buying. It's like buying condoms,
Okay.
in a grocery store. So you buy it and you give it to the guy, and the guy I don't know if you remember this, but they used to look. People who worked in record stores used to look at what you were buying, like, okay, one of those.
Okay. I was very, very lucky. There's a guy called Roger, and he owned this shop called Driftin'. And it was called Driftin' because it was an absolute mad place. We used to Skype off school and listen to him playing music and new records. It was a record shop. But it was called Driftin' because he kept on getting closed down, and he was drifting around the town in any empty house, any empty building that he could actually get in there and then maybe pay rent in a bit. But I don't think he did.
Well, there were two used record shops in Boston that we would go to, and one was called Nuggets. It was like a museum, I suppose. For the Jane Austen set, for the 1800s, it was probably like going to a great museum or library or something. We couldn't get enough. Read the record, the liner notes, read the lyrics on the inside.
Absolutely. You
pull out the jacket and read the lyrics.
And then we even got that close that you'd see Porky's prime cuts scratched into the vinyl as well, and there was always little messages from the producers and the directors and stuff of making the records. It was quite incredible that we cared so much about our wonderful works of art we held in our hands. A double album in a double sleeve with a coloured vinyl. Oh my God, that did it for me.
That was a big deal.
Absolutely.
Well, I had a white album. I mean, the vinyl was white. It was very special.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked looking at the shapes. I liked running the record with the sound turned all the way down and getting my ear as close as I could to the needle to hear it anyway. Just to hear the geography of the plastic.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fantastic. And I mean, now, even when it went to CD, I mean, now it's all MP3 and you get it off your straight download to iTunes or whatever, but it really was fantastic to actually go and bring an album to a disco and get the DJ to play a track of it and that type of stuff.
It was a big deal. And that, of course, sounds pale to the people who would just go see music. We all know that going to see music, as I just did the other night, is better. And it always is better.
Who'd you go and see? Who'd you go and see?
My friend Trish Sheldon, she's a local. She's an incredibly talented songwriter. I'm not just saying that. If there were any taste in American pop music, and I don't even have to complete that sentence.
Okay, fair enough. We like to promote original new stuff. So on PRS,
her band is called Blue Sky Drive. Sky Drive. She's a wonderful songwriter. She actually runs she co-runs non-GMO Florida. So she's on the right side of the dark side of the forest.
Brilliant.
She's just good. She once had a starring role in a Star Trek episode.
Really?
Yeah.
She played an alien.
She played a human, I think, but a very sexy one. All right, Trish, don't get mad. Anyway.
Okay, well, listen, if she can send me a few MP3s, I might play a bit of the tunes and see what the crack is.
That's going to happen.
Yeah.
I like Blue. They're sunny California throwback pop, but they're very organic and natural. It sounds like something that should have happened with people playing their own instruments, people doing their own harmonies. Not a machine in sight to do anything with that. They do it.
So harking back to the Beach Boys.
No, 70s, more like, she's not like Carly Simon. I'll have her.
Yes.
Probably the Fleetwood Mac 70s. But Anyway, that line going across the horizon, moving straight up, ascending to 7 billion,
right,
really only has one place to go. And David Bowie brought us there because he sang a song called 5 Years.
Yeah.
I don't think we have only 5 years, but I think that we are going to be hitting the oil wall. What just happened, said everybody. We were talking about this before the break. We were talking about oil and decline and all these other things. We're going to hit this wall of decline, which means that we're going to have to relocalize, which isn't a word that my spell check understands, but I think will be in about 2 years.
Okay.
Relocalize, which is, in other words, one of the things I say is the future doesn't look like the Jetsons. Did you have the Jetsons?
We did have the Jetsons. It was like the Flintstones, but in the future.
Yeah, it was a 50s, 60s apartment complex, essentially a New York, California apartment building put on stilts, and then everybody had flying cars, and there were talking robots that had Long Island accents,
Yeah.
New York accents.
No, I remember
robots.
it. I remember it well. The Jetsons, they were good. Another Hanna-Barbera, or Barbara, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, I like to tell people that the future looks a lot less like the Jetsons and a lot more like Dickens.
So we're going back to our roots, and most people are talking about it. I mean, I just had Owen and Phil Ridley, Owen Miller and Phil Ridley on for the first hour of the show, and really what they're harking back to with their information on nutrition, Liam, is to go right back before any of the mass-produced crap that became food.
Right, before factory farmed, industrial farmed, chemically treated, inbred, hybridized, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. Hormonally charged crap.
Hormonally charged. People used to eat diets that contained a lot of smaller animals, things that could be caught quickly and regenerate quickly, and plenty of roots and tubers and beans. Beans have been grown by the human population, lentils. Yep. Teas,
and grasses and leaves as well, So.
Grasses, leaves, fruit, nuts, seeds, etc., etc., etc. We have to work on it, but just endless fields of any one thing didn't exist.
Yeah.
So my new book coming out next year is Official Stories 2. The book that is coming out at the end of this year is called The Oil Alarm. There will be an animated feature coming along with that, 15-minute. Short feature or short film done by a very good animator doing that work right now. And the Oil Alarm is about the stuff that we've talked about before. But Official Stories 2 presents this basic thesis. The basic thesis maybe stands in opposition to your story.
Yes.
And the basic thesis is that we are a tool making. We are a species of animal like any on this planet. We have what I call a reflective consciousness. In other words, we know that we're thinking, whereas most animals just think. They think, gazelle must run, must pounce. Running, pouncing, eating.
But are we a bit conceited in thinking that we think better than they think?
I didn't say we think better, but we think that we think about the way that we think.
Yes, okay.
It's a reflective consciousness.
Yeah, but are we 100% certain they're not reflective, though? We don't know.
Well, give a dog a typewriter. Cross your fingers. Cross your fingers.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm barking up the wrong tree there, okay.
Nobody knows what animals think, but clearly they're feeling emotional, even sentimental. They have memories. They can be scarred from damage. They can be have positive reinforcement from previous memory. So they're very much like us, but they don't think, I'm thinking about food again. They just think food. As far as we can tell. Okay. They think, food.
I know a lot of humans that do that.
because we're animals.
Yes.
But it's also possible for us to disengage that sort of reflexive, what we praise as being instinctual, and say, here I am thinking about food again. Why am I thinking about food? Was it something my mother said to me? Maybe my father wasn't around enough. We'll think about our impulses, and we'll often derange them as a result. We're not terribly good at being instinctive creatures, which is okay because it stops us from doing some things, but it's terrible because it gets us doing others and rationalizing them. Okay, so we're a tool-making animal. Nobody can deny that as soon as we're born, anything we pick up becomes essentially a tool, a pointer, a hammer, something to pry something open with. And as we get older, we improve the quality of the tools that we make. We're such a good tool-making species that we've actually machined atoms and cracked those in halves to our detriment, to the absolute destruction of all life on Earth, most likely. So nobody can deny that we're tool makers by this very shape and mechanics of our hand. If we can agree on that, we can move on to part two, which is that we're storytellers. Everything that we believe fits into a narrative. And in official stories, I laid out some of the narratives of science and history that are absolutely not verified by the details. The official stories are contradicted in so many ways by the details that you have to shrug your shoulders. But the narratives are always very simple. Human beings need simple narrative structures, like evolution is true, is a narrative structure.
Yeah.
Life came, first there was nothing and it exploded. That's a narrative. It's a stupid story, but it's a narrative structure.
Okay.
Everybody needs narrative structures. And you presented a narrative structure before, which was a colorful sort of, you even said Marvel, it really is a Marvel Comics kind of color, hero-infested, new agey narrative structure.
Stop, now go on.
But it is a narrative structure, and it would be the fodder, by the way, for a great many movies if you ever wanted to capitalize on a, Sean Maguire presents, the world before 9 billion or something like that. Just call it 9 billion, and 9 billion is this magic number at which consciousness suddenly goes boom. And what I think when we hit 9 billion is that you hear too many toilets flush at once and the earth just explodes.
Well, if you think so, okay. I think that the world can handle, and we being part of it, as long as we get back to nature and stop decimating and destroying everything, I think we can learn or relearn from the past, if you like, how to look after our planet, how to be here, how to be part of it. And I think we are actually a benefit to the planet rather than a hindrance. And at the moment, all we are doing is consenting idiots and psychos at the top to allow the whole of the human species to be a fucking blight on the planet, when in fact we could be fantastically part of it and part of its growth.
And I think that we, the human species, are tool making without the foresight to understand what our tools will do, because we came about as a species that lived in less than 24-hour cycles of sunlight, 24-hour days, 12 to 15 hours of sunlight. We went to bed at night. We got up in the morning through a period of darkness, and the day started over again. We essentially had to do the same thing every day, so we don't have great foresight. It's not built into us to have a great ability to think very far into the future. Because of our inheritance. So when we start messing around or mucking about, as you'd say, with material that requires 10,000 to 100,000 years for a half-life, we've killed ourselves. Mm-hmm. We've done ourselves in. That tool making then couples with that storytelling, and the storytelling is always going to simplify complexity. So 9/11 as a story is the bad guys hated America and wanted to impact its, challenge our freedom. They're enemies of freedom. The more complicated story is the United States funded a group of people called the Taliban to fight the Russians, because the Russians had essentially more oil than we did, but we were using Saudi oil, so we funded the Taliban to fight them in what we knew would be their Vietnam. They couldn't turn it down. They had to be there to hold on to some of their oil supplies in the Caspian. Take a breath. Complicated? So then finally we outspent Russia using all the money that we got from building stuff with Saudi oil to build fake weapons that we didn't actually build, and then the Russians had to keep up with us. Complicated. And they collapsed and became the former Soviet Union, the artist formerly known as the Soviet Union. And then the Taliban had a life of its own and started to resent us, the United States, and then attacked us a little bit, but then we had to get back into the Middle East because we had to get the oil out of it. Complicated. So here's the simple narrative. 9/11 happened because they hated our freedom, which are more people are going to be able to fathom. I mean, the complex geopolitical machinations of 50 years of, oil rigging and, international politicking through proxy wars, or they hated our freedom.
Yeah. Well, they hate our freedom. They like to be in control, and they enjoy wars because it makes them very, very rich.
It makes them rich in the short term, but I also think that the people at the top are as short-sighted generally. I mean, I think Bill Gates is as dumb as he is smart. I think if you asked him if he believed that vaccines are, help some people, some part of him probably thinks that they really, really do.
Well, look, I do believe that these psychos believe in what they're doing, but that's because they're psychopaths. That's no other reason.
But it tells you something about the species. And if we just call them psychopaths, I mean, if we just say Hitler was a psycho, and he was, but if we just say Hitler was a psychopath, and we say he was a bad painter, well, he wasn't a bad painter. So automatically we have to say that he was a good draftsman anyway. And we have to say that he was a human. He was not a human that we like. No, he was a psychopathic human. That means that we're all susceptible to the same frailties, but not to the same degree. So what are the frailties? Storytelling, believing in the stories that we make up. So what's the solution? There might not be one. I really think that I will take your side and say that we will figure out how to live on this planet again.
Yeah, I think so.
But not because we choose to.
I was actually having a private conversation with Owen Miller, who is still knocking around. He's been listening to what we've been talking about, and he was saying, he's saying that, we might wipe ourselves out. And I'm saying, well, I don't think we'll wipe ourselves out. I really do think that there is hope. But then he comes back with 50% of children autistic by 2025. Who's going to make the babies to be the adults in 2050? Well, if Bill Gates gets his way, we're all going to be sterilised, aren't we, apart from his family?
I think that the human species will, unless Fukushima positively destroys the world, which it could do. Nobody's ever done an open air nuclear reactor meltdown before, so who knows?
Okay,
we'll see.
We will see, and do you know what else we'll see? We'll see this hour coming to an end, my friend.
The show will come out.
Oh, don't be doing
tomorrow.
That. Have you got ginger hair? Okay.
Only where it doesn't show.
Well, I'm not going to talk about that. That's not for public consumption.
Sean, it just flies by with you. It's the best show that I go on.
Is it? That's good.
Yeah,
is it the only show you go on, Liam?
Is this a show?
Is this the only show you go on? Right. So listen, I am going to say thank you so much, Liam Scheff, for coming on my show. It's been absolutely a pleasure as always. I don't know if it was very entertaining for people who don't get our little jokies and our sides and all the rest of it, because we went all around the houses with a few tangents, didn't we?
I think everybody enjoyed it, and if they didn't, they'll listen back and say, I have to understand what those maniacs were talking about.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I love you to bits. I think it's fantastic, and
I love you back to bits.
Brilliant. And I think it's about time you had your own show on our station, because this is where the new media is going to take over the planet, as they say, and tell people the truth about things. I want to thank Owen Miller.
And that was the blessedly talented, excellent radio host, Sean Maguire, hosting me on Out of the Bag last week. I've been giving a talk on food, relocalization, the problem with our oil-bearing society, the fact that our towns and fields no longer really live together or resemble places where we could actually survive. That talk is called The Oil Alarm. It's going to be a film, a video, an animated video. It's going to be a book in September. Oh my God, do I have work to do? Do I have work ahead of me? I'm building gardens. I'm building gardens all over the place. I'm learning about building gardens as I build gardens. I'm learning more and more and more. I built an herb spiral last week. It's where you take your friend named Herb and you spin him around. What you do actually is you take some stones and you put them in a snail shell configuration and you build them upward on a slant, you see. So that's good because, you can plant your basil and your oregano and your various kinds of thyme, mint, and you always want variety. One of the things that we used to have in the plant world is variety. One of the things we don't have anymore is variety. So I was in the Whole Foods parking lot the other night. I had gone to an audio recording place in somebody's house to professionally record, unlike this, to professionally record the audio track for the oil alarm. And we ended up going to the Whole Foods because the Chipotle had a 25-minute line. Of course, I don't like going to Whole Foods very much, but I try to eat as much as I can in the bulk section before I get out, and I just have them weigh me. And we sat, and I ate the bagged carrots, and we looked at the bagged carrots, and we said, I was talking to my friend, and we were talking about why things were the way they were, why we were so doomed as a society, why this situation is such a disaster. And the answer is that we had so much oil, that we could afford to build roads for as long as the eye could possibly see. And we could afford to make the town and the field, which used to live together, be as far apart as they possibly could be. So the town is now somewhere in Iowa, Illinois, Dakota, a couple in Michigan, southern Canada, Saskatchewan. Those are the fields, the Monsanto fields, going down the Mississippi and the Missouri River. I think the Colorado, of course, is no longer a river. It just ends in a depleting swimming pool somewhere near Las Vegas, behind the Hoover Dam, which will not be able to make electricity anymore. So I wonder what's going to happen in Los Angeles, as nobody can afford their electric bills. Well, welcome to the riots. Tonight the riots begin. We used to get food from locally, from our town. I mean, it would be impossible to think about living somewhere without having food all around you. I mean, how would you do it? What would be the process? It wouldn't exist. Where do we get food? But we had so much gas that we could afford to put everything on wheels, and we did. Well, we're not going to have that much gas, and very soon, forever, it's going to decline, get more and more expensive. So what's the most important thing in the world? It's reacquainting the town with the field. We should have no Whole Foods, and that's where we went, without a park. We shouldn't even have parking lots. We should have pull-up areas for buses and big bicycle areas, something for little motor scooters, and then the parking lot should be turned, at least half of it, into a big growing area. Why would you call it Whole Foods if they weren't growing Whole Foods? Well, there's an idea, John Mackey. You dick. Anyway, you're listening to Thank you. The Liam Scheff Show on Truth Frequency Radio and UCY TV. Simulcasting or helpfully broadcasting with People's Internet Radio. Thank you, Sean Maguire. And for the next 3 minutes, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. As I don't know what the story is, you're going to have to bear with me. So we were in the Whole Foods parking lot looking around. And we're here in southern Florida. I was over in a place called Davie, which is a strange name for a town because it sounds like a little boy's name. Come here, Davie. Actually, it's my father's name. And it was clear that they had some planters, and there were some pretty trees in the parking lot that were weed trees. I mean, they were not unattractive, but they didn't produce anything. So we got to thinking and saying, so how many trees could you put in this parking lot that would grow food? We thought, well, you could probably replace all the trees here with food trees, and that would be about 25 to 40 trees. We didn't do a really good count. But there was a lot of space. Even though it was confined to planters, there was still plenty of space. Well, what if you tore up a quarter of the parking lot and just devoted it to growing food? Well, then you could have 5 more trees and about 40 raised beds. Well, wow. Okay, now we're really talking. So Whole Foods then becomes a vendor and a grower and seller of its own Whole Foods, and people who work at Whole Foods learn to grow food. So Whole Foods actually expands its mission from being a corporate whore that bends over for the marketplace and greases itself up for any fake nutritional Oreo cookie concoction. Thank you, John Mackey, you dick. And instead becomes a place that grows whole food. But you don't have to be Whole Foods to do it. In fact, any mom and pop there are none. Supermarket could do it. Safeway could do it. Any supermarket in the country could just say, we've had enough of this. A quarter of our parking lot is now going to be devoted to growing produce. Wouldn't that be swell? And I don't mean swollen. I mean, wouldn't that be fantastic? Any objections out there? I hear the objections. But people if food grew everywhere, it would fall on people and they'd sue. Yeah, you're right. It's America. If an apple fell on somebody, they'd sue. So we have to first kill all the lawyers. Or at least frivolous lawsuits. Well, people have to pay for food or it's un-American. And for that idea, I say go to hell. Johnny Appleseed was a real folktale. In other words, there was a figure behind it, and probably many. People who decided to spread the gospel of growing food. And I think that's the gospel, to borrow that unholy word, that we have to take back from the people who don't understand what it means. And I think the new gospel has to be that we are growing food. We have to remake the Johnny Appleseed world and grow avocado trees and apple trees and pear and quince and plum and all of the varieties of nuts and seeds. And I don't mean the one variety that they sell in the supermarket. I mean the 30 varieties that don't look all identical and aren't exactly perfect. I think that's where we have to go back to. I don't have a musical outro, so you'll just have to hum along with me. Let's do the theme to Jeopardy, or harkening back to the beginning of the show, the Benny Hill show. I think that we could probably get away with that. I'm not going to look it up. I'm feeling lazy. I am going to say support independent journalism by going to Amazon.com and buying Official Stories. Official Stories exist to protect officials. I'm working on Official Stories too. I think that you'll like it if you're open-minded and clever enough. Stay tuned to all the great programming.